So welcome to this month's Demystifying the Cloud. I'm Mark Scher, your host. We have an awesome show for you today, so I hope you're ready to have your mind blown as you go from uninformed to informed, informed to reformed, unformed to transformed, and underperformed to preformed. Yeah, I had to look some of those words up. So how, you ask, can we do this in such short time? Great question. It's through the power of experience. Individual businesses have limited line of sight to what's really going on outside of their immediate world. And that's why it's so important and valuable to see how others who are more frequently implementing the technology across different verticals are more successful in their implementation practices. And that's why we're here now. We want you to get a taste of some of our best practices and insights that we've developed years from our engagements with a plethora of different verticals sizes at different stages. Okay, so remember, experience is king, and then diverse experience is the ace that trumps the king. All right, so let's dive right into our guest intro. If you're here, you know me. If you don't, just think of a shorter, less muscular version of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and you've rightly envisioned me. But that's enough about me. Let's introduce our special guest today, Jason Ditzel. No, Jason Kondo didn't change his last name. This Jason is an entirely different individual with an entirely different practice. Welcome, Mr. Ditzel. Fun fact about Jason, he and I are both ex-Microsoft. And that's why, cue slide, we are called the ex-Microsoft men. As a result, and this is no lie, we actually have mutant power. Now, most outsiders don't know this fact, but there's a radioactive pool at Microsoft that everyone has to step into when they first start. As expected, there are side effects. So go ahead and take a look at your screen. There's me, and there's Jason. Now, keep in mind, these were our actual Microsoft corporate badged pictures. Now, I still have the badge to prove it. And yes, Jason did actually do this once to a truck on the highway. Now, the driver was really upset, and of course he confronted Jason, but it didn't end well for the driver, and that was the last person who confronted Jason. I try to keep my distance. That's why we're doing this from separate offices. No, seriously though, every once in a while when he gets angry, primarily in meetings with AWS and Google, Jason's steel claws begin to emerge from his knuckles, and then we have to sedate him right there and then to prevent any casualties. You guys ever seen the movie Logan? Yeah, that's Jason's temperament. So why do I bring this up? Well, even though some of our teammates are supernatural Microsoft men, like Jason is, it's vitally important, literally in this case, to work well with them. Not just to keep them from impaling anybody, but to be more efficient, streamlined, have the transparent single pane of glass on any given project, initiative, an area of needed collaboration. And guys, that's what Teams solves for. This is efficiency, communication, project, and team use at its best. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to get into what is Microsoft Teams by yours truly. We're going to talk about what's the difference between Teams, Skype, SharePoint. That's Jason Wolverine Ditzel. And then why should my organization use Teams? Once again, the Wolverine himself. I'll walk through some relevant case studies. During this time, we'll have another surprise guest. And then, what does Teams look and feel like? Back to Claws of Steel. And then, how do I get started using this? Jason will finish us off, and then we'll give you guys the opportunity to have a Q&A. Okay, so what is Microsoft Teams? Here's my definition. Like with everything I have an answer to, I did some really deep, prolonged research, and after an extremely long, tedious, sweat-producing, hard-worked 10 seconds of searching, I found it on Google. Sorry, Bing. And here it is. Microsoft Teams is a chat-based collaboration tool that's part of Office 365 suite of services. If you guys remember back to our old webinar on Office 365 E3, E5, Teams enables local and remote coworkers to work together and collaborate in real and near real time through a common workspace using features such as team chat, one-on-one chat, and document collaboration. Okay, so what does this all mean? How does it look and feel? So many questions, guys. Well, let's get into these in a bit. But I want to make sure you understand first what it is, and then Jason's going to show you what it's not. Okay, so as you can see, Teams is not Skype, it's not SharePoint, it's not anything that's not Teams. Though it has integrations, it's different. And it's important that you see the value of Teams itself. I know, frankly, I didn't. Even working at Microsoft, I didn't use it much. They tried to roll it out, but it was hard to adopt because I didn't see the value. And then I saw its power, as I think you'll soon see in the demo and case studies. But let's just break this definition down. Back to Teams. So it's a chat-based collaboration tool. And this is incredibly simple at first, folks. We'll get into what you want to hear in a little while. So a chat-based collaboration tool, this means that it's persistent chat. And it stays around for the life of the team instead of the IM that goes away. Okay? And it's part of Office 365. You get this already included with your O365 subscription. You get it with Business Essentials, Business Premium, Enterprise E1, E3, and E5. And if you had E4 before, which is kind of the new E3, you have this. You have entitlements to this technology, and you already own it. That's the beauty of it. Okay, so Teams enables local and remote coworkers to work together and collaborate in real and near real time. So no matter where you are, no matter what device you're on, you are able to connect with your team and have access to all of their charts, documents, experiences, and best of all, it's in real time. It's happening right there and then as everybody makes their changes. Okay, so this is through a common workspace using features such as team chat, one-on-one chat, and document collaboration. Okay, so through Teams, through the client, the interface, you can access your group or team's chat, whether it's one-on-one or all together, and you can work on documents at the same time. Now, how cool is that? So this just kind of gives you the look before we do the demo of what it is. So before we do that, in a sense, this tool is going to help Office 365 span the generational divide from our beloved millennials, which I'm sure are represented on this call, all the way to our tried and true baby boomers, which we also have represented on the call. So everybody has their preferred ways of communication. One of my kids seems to only communicate through Snapchat. I don't understand why or how, but that's what he does. I just can't wait to see what Microsoft does for our kids' kids. I can see it now. It's going to be called Microsoft's Insta Snapfix. And I know kids don't like Facebook these days, only the older generation, but let's see what happens. Okay, so I hope at this point we're remotely coherent, and hopefully at least you can articulate in some fashion what Teams is. So write down your questions, save them for the end. But so far, this is pretty straightforward, quick and easy. And then that leaves us to our next point, what it isn't. And then why should you be using it? So, Jason, please enlighten these folks with your incomparable mutant mind. And folks, remember, don't anger the man with the steel claws. Jason Ditzel, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. So, let's see. Let's start with a little bit more technical context on Microsoft Teams. Now, let's see. Microsoft talks about the inner loop communications and the outer loop communications. Okay, so inner loop communications are communication channels that you use to work with other people on a day-to-day basis. It is a collaborative type of work stream. Okay, outer loop would be a type of communication that happens from a few people to many people. So it is like the corporate communications and the leadership announcements, employee forum, and communities. Okay. So the inner loop is more about projects, maybe product development, campaign creation. All right, so if we define those two types of communication strategies or workloads. We also have the ubiquitous email that we use every day. So that is for formal or informal communication, and frankly, most of everyone's communication is happening through that tool right now. All right, so Microsoft has SharePoint, and they've had SharePoint out there since around 2003 at least. That was a system that, or is a system that can contain files. You can upload files to it instead of a network share. You can then attach metadata to it, and it has a whole application development platform, search capabilities, security built in. All right, and most everyone knows what that tool is. So then that migrates to the cloud into SharePoint Online, as well as OneDrive for Business, and Microsoft starts tying these SharePoint or these Office 365 tools together, okay? And they try to add value and make the tools easy to use. So for the past few years, we've heard about Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, OneDrive for Business. We've heard about these different technologies all under the Office 365 umbrella, okay? So recently, they then introduced this Office 365 groups. It is not, don't think of 80 security groups, although that's a part of it, but this is a new thing that bundles, or that is made for self-service end user enablement of Office 365 services. Specifically, when you create an Office 365 group, and an end user can do this, you get a security group in Azure AD, you get an Outlook shared mailbox and calendar, you get a SharePoint Online site collection created, and in that site collection you get things like OneNote documents that people can then co-author against. Okay, so this Office 365 groups, start stitching these technologies together. Now, the next step is then Microsoft Teams builds on top of Office 365 groups. So when you create a Microsoft team, you automatically get an underlying Office 365 group. And in addition to those base features, you also get the persistent chat feature that will show, and things like a Microsoft Planner plan. So that plan, the Planner plan, is fits between an Excel spreadsheet or a SharePoint task list and Project Server. It's this middle ground through which you can coordinate and track tasks, okay? So Microsoft Teams is focused on this inner loop type of communication by stitching these products together to give you one experience or user interface to use those products. Okay, so I'm going to start comparing and contrasting different technologies. All right, so how about Microsoft Teams versus SharePoint Online? Okay, SharePoint Online is about enterprise document management. All right, so you'll have heavy metadata there. You'll have heavy search there. You'll have record management there. All right, in SharePoint Online proper. Corporate communications for intranets and line of business solutions also, so you can use it as a platform and use other tools to create workflows and form capture. All right. Microsoft Teams for OneDrive versus OneDrive for Business. OneDrive for Business is your business-related personal repository, right? It's not to hold your MP3s or movies. It is for business collaboration or like interim work product before you share it out for the team. All right, that you can get from any device. Next up, let's see. Hey, Mark, I'm trying to go to the next slide, please.
Sorry. Is that your slide?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. I think I missed one. Yeah, here we go. Okay, Microsoft Teams versus Skype for Business. So Microsoft Teams allows this persistent chat that I'm going to demo in a second. It's like a Facebook wall, okay? It lives beyond just the one-to-one communication. Its purpose is helpful or messaging for when people join the team, okay? So remember, these technologies are for user self-service to get IT out of the management loop with these collaboration tools. So when a person joins a team, they can then see the running chat that has happened in the context of the project. Now, in Microsoft Teams, you can also do a one-to-one chat. Like all the one-to-one communication tools show up in the personal identity interface that we'll see in a second. But Microsoft is moving or intends for the Skype for Business interface to move to Microsoft Teams. Now, they've been talking about it for a little bit, probably around a year now, and it hasn't really been announced when the Skype for Business client will go away, okay? But it is moving that way. Microsoft Teams versus Outlook. So the Microsoft Teams is for specific interloop communication that's highly relevant to a small department, informal communication, or with the project. Now, we're going to, a little bit later, Eric is going to give a use case on how he uses Microsoft Teams with the delivery team, okay? So Eric's on the sales side, and he wants to keep track of what the delivery team is doing. Now, the interesting thing there is that when you switch over this communication to the persistent chat in Teams, you don't have to, first of all, you tend not to miss messages that, like, get lost in your inbox. And number two is that you can give yourself quick context to see the history that's happened a few messages up in the chat. So both of those things are pretty helpful to kind of task switch into the context of the project pretty quickly. Now, Microsoft Teams versus Yammer. Interestingly, at the SharePoint conference that just wrapped up yesterday, Yammer was given new life, or maybe it was people backed up. Microsoft backed up its support of Yammer, where it's not going to be replaced by Teams. Yammer is the outer loop communication vector for the large group. Okay, it provides that forum-based, company-wide type of experience. So when one example is if everyone is interested in a new product release, like at Microsoft, it would be the kind of internal messaging about, like, Xbox, say. There would be hundreds of people in the organization, tuned in to that forum to hear the announcements and people talking about, speculation. Every once in a while, a product team member would chime in. So those type of forum experiences are best served right now with Yammer. Okay, and the teams focus that chat on the focused communication. Right. Oops. Okay, so this slide, we're going to make this deck available. This slide breaks down the type of or the type of attributes of collaboration across the different tools that Microsoft offers. So real quick, I'll go down the Microsoft Teams column here. Information is very easily shared. It is shared with libraries or the notebook and the persistent chat. Okay. Knowledge transfer, we talked about that. You can get, a user can get into the context of the of where a team is at or a project is at very quickly with that chat. Communication is very fast. It's instant communication. People, you get alerted when activity occurs in the Microsoft team. The audience is built for, or is typically used in a focus. It's a focused audience with a small, close-knit team that is trying to, get a project out, complete and out the door. The tone is informal, and now the confidentiality is medium to low, meaning that right now, okay, so it was interesting. Over the past couple of months, a pretty major change has been made by Microsoft. It used to be such that anyone could add themselves to a Microsoft team. All right, if they found it, they could then add themselves and they would just be in. With user feedback, Microsoft changed that to, by default, a user has to be invited to the team. Now, you can switch it back to the other method, but right now, you have to be added. Now, the security within the team in this release of the product is not as granular as people are requesting. So in a team, once a person is in a team, they have access to everything. And there are some use cases where some customers would like to lock down pieces of information in the team, and that's just not there yet. Okay, so the rest of this deck is really for reference on how the different collaboration tools compare to these attributes. Okay. All right. So why should you use Teams? Oops, sorry. All right, the number one reason is that it concentrates all of the information about the thing that the team is working on into one place, and it neatly stitches together the Office 365 tools to help facilitate that. So we talked about the persistent chat, and the co-authoring feature is something that is available in SharePoint Online in the latest versions of the Office suite. But that co-authoring plus the collaboration effort or the collaboration, the chat feature really makes that information sharing in one location really powerful. Additionally, the ability to start video meetings, voice chat with one person or all members is easy with the tooling. Now, I have not yet gotten into the situation of just starting an ad hoc video meeting with all members of the team. Okay? So it's definitely doable with the tool, and Microsoft shows that off a lot. I can see that with remote team members. If you have a lot of remote team members, that makes sense. I don't think you would invite 50 people to a voice video chat at once, though. So if it was a smaller group, I could see that happening more often.
And that was awesome. So we've seen what it is, how it's different, why you should use it. So let's listen to some real tear-jerking testimonials. Dental, they deal with hundreds of employees that need to communicate about thousands of projects to make a better customer experience for their tens of thousands of customers. Even though they might not be as large of or you might not be as large of an organization, I'm sure you have similar issues as them and that you have a lot of moving parts. So how do you keep all of these conversations going? How did Benco Dental do it? They did it on Teams. So here's a great example, and this is right from a Microsoft case study. Fred DeRosa, an equipment support field technician from Benco Dental, has taken the dental chair apart, run all the usual diagnostics, and still can't figure out why the chair won't recline. The dentist keeps walking by and checking anxiously. She has an appointment in an hour and needs that chair. DeRosa quickly grabs his tablet, taps open Microsoft Teams, and posts a question on the Teams channel for the particular model chair. Has anyone seen this problem? Any ideas? He asks. Within seconds, a technician in another state replies to the thread, "Yep, ran into it a few months ago, try this, and described a fix." It worked, and DeRosa has the chair fixed and reassembled in under 10 minutes. Everyone is happy and smiling. When I worked at Microsoft, I frankly rarely used Teams. I didn't see the value. But now that I'm a Microsoft partner and one of our practice directors refuses to work on projects apart from Teams, I'm sort of forced to use it. Plus, having to present on the topic of Teams also has sort of forced me to use it to know what the heck it is and how it works. So here's my day before Teams and my day after Teams. It really does help. When I start on a project, I've got to worry about SharePoint, Skype, Outlook, etc. And I'm not always sure where to go for what I need to start on a project. It's a lot of jumping back and forth to find my notes, the practice director's notes, the latest version of the statement of work, the signed statement of work, our next step, the kickoff meeting date and notes, etc. But now with Teams, I can go to a central location on my customer's projects and very effectively had a threaded view of the history of my projects, all the relevant documents, the team insights and notes, next steps, the weekly status reports, first seen challenges, questions and answers, and really everything I need to be informed about the project. Okay, so I have another surprise for you. I don't know if he's here. Eric, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So, by the way, just full of surprises today on this call. 2 guest speakers. Just full of it today. My wife tells me that all the time, not about the surprises. And so Eric Yonkin is one of our solution sales executive here. I understand some of the customers that he has have joined. And Eric has a similar story of mine in that before Teams, his entire life was in disarray. This is an actual picture of Eric before and after Teams. So Eric, if you could, please tell us how Teams has changed your life.
Thanks, Mark. I guess I'll have to update my LinkedIn picture now with that first one. I like that a lot better. So I just thought I'd give you an example of how we use Teams here internally. It's very similar to some of the use cases that you talked about, but I think as we talk to clients, we see this being used exactly this way, and it's really more about project management on a small scale more than anything else. So we have a sales team and a delivery team here at Bennett Adelson. So the sales team's role is to stay in contact with our clients and kind of provide some project coordination to make sure that everything is going smoothly on any of our delivery tasks. The delivery team's role, obviously, is to deliver the solutions that we have sold and work directly with the client on those things. So there can sometimes be a disconnect between those two groups just because we're out talking to clients and out in the field kind of selling, here in the office doing paperwork and all the boring stuff. Our delivery team, they can get very, very focused on what it is that they're doing, sometimes lose sight of some of the larger pictures of a project. So, I would imagine that can resonate on most projects, whether they're technical or not. So prior to Teams, the workflow kind of went like this. We would have a signed statement of work, various other documents. We'd spin up a SharePoint site for a specific project. We would assign it to a client, and we put all the documents in that SharePoint site. Any instant communication we would use Skype for if the person was online. If not, we would use email. And so that is somewhat effective, but all of us seem to get hundreds of emails every day these days. So a lot of times emails would get lost, or we knew that there was an email we needed to respond to, but we have to search through Outlook to find the email that we were looking for, or search for the specific version of the document that was emailed. And it just wasn't very efficient. So what we started using Teams for was basically an interface to combine all of those things, replace some and combine others. So we have a separate team for each client within a practice, and then oftentimes we have multiple projects going on with a client at once, so each project will have its own channel in Teams. So you have your team with the client name, you click on that, it has a list of all of the channels, those are all the different projects. And then within those channels, we then have tabs. The first tab stays for persistent chat. The second tab is assigned to any kind of project-specific documents that we don't necessarily need to retain afterwards, just something that we want on there temporarily. And then the third tab, and I think the most powerful tab, is a direct link to the SharePoint site that is spun up for that project. So what that allows us to do is communicate with each other in the persistent chat. So there's no more hunting through emails to see what was said or how many hours were we supposed to add to that. We can actually just look right on the persistent chat, know, kind of like Jason said earlier, have the context of what we're talking about right on there. We can tag people in the persistent chat in the organization with the @ symbol, so that will notify them that they were mentioned. So if there's a follow-up item, it will task them with that. You can also add tasks that will show up on a task planner for them. So there's a great integration with Planner, although we don't really fully take advantage of that to this point yet. So having that persistent chat right up front on a project is really helpful to know what's going on, to know if there are any issues that need to be addressed. That can be checked constantly. And then the tab with the direct link to SharePoint is great because SharePoint will hold a lot of information and it's very powerful for real-time collaboration, but in a regular SharePoint site, it's very difficult to find exactly where you're looking to go, especially if you have multiple clients, multiple projects happening at once. So with this, everything is in that one interface. You know you're in the right project. When you go to the SharePoint site, the document is right there. So if I need to make a change to a statement of work, for instance, or a status report, or get access to a spreadsheet, all of that is kept in SharePoint, but it's accessible all in one tab in my Teams channel for that project. I can edit it right there online. I can edit it on the fly, and as soon as I click save, or as time goes on and it auto-saves, everybody who's looking at that Teams channel now has that most recent document available. So this is really helpful because before we would have to find something on SharePoint, save it, then let somebody know that it was saved either with an email or an instant message. If they're not online and they're not available on Skype for an IM, then we send them an email. But again, then you're sending dozens of emails about things that really don't require an email. It just requires a quick notification. Teams lets us do that really quickly and easily, and it helps keep everything organized within the bucket of a project. So it's really great for managing multiple projects at a time, keeping everything separated, and sharing communication that is just much more effective than what we were using before with email and trying to do IM. And as a side benefit, because we are linking directly to a SharePoint site, any of those documents will be persistent after we blow that Teams channel up, whereas all the other stuff that we don't necessarily need or want, that goes away when the Teams is deleted so that we're not cluttering up our SharePoint on the back end. So it's a good combination to get all the relevant information in front of you, keep everything organized, but still have access to SharePoint where there are documents that you want to retain beyond just the actual Teams usage. So that's how we're using it. It's been really effective for project management, especially where you have multiple projects happening all simultaneously, to keep everything in line and organized, but also to keep everybody up to date with the most recent documents because it's on Teams. And that's what we've kind of gone to now. If there is something that we need, or if there's an update, or where do I find this, put it on Teams, put it on the Teams, check the Teams. It's the single source of truth, and it encompasses all of the other Office products instead of having the same project represented across different solutions. Teams is the interface to get to everything. So We love it. It's made us much more efficiently internally. And again, most of our clients, as they start to use it, are finding the same thing. As long as it's set up the right way and governed properly, it can be really powerful to help with those project management light type tasks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric. That was great. And do you know how we put this presentation together, folks? Teams. We all share the same Teams document. I had to change a few things just for HR's sake and toned it down. You might not have thought that, but folks, Teams works. It really does. And I want to bring up one more testimonial from another Eric, who happens to be one of my former customers while at Microsoft and a current one at BA. So Eric Roman is the Executive Vice President of Nations Lending, just down the street from the Microsoft and BA office. They're an amazing organization. And here's what he had to say about Teams. We made the jump to Teams in Q4 of last year. We've seen almost 500% increase in chat activity since launch. We love this application. And I love to hear these stories. They're really encouraging, and they validate that the technology actually works and increases collaboration and effectiveness within the organization. So now let's go right to the demo, take a look at what this bad boy can do and looks like and feels like with Mr. Jason Ditzel.
Okay, I'm going to share my desktop. Okay. Can you see it, Mark?
It's loading. I can see. Can everybody else see?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So this is the Windows Universal App interface that is Microsoft Teams. On the left here, we can see the different teams that I have marked as my favorites, okay? I have 4 up here. This Jason test team is the latest that this group is working on right now. In it, we can see right here I'm landed on the conversation tab of the team, okay? So we can see how we have posted different pictures and different notifications have come up when activity has happened in this team. All right. So if I add another person to this team, they'll be able to see all of this history, and that's what we were talking about with regards to the persistent chat. If you look at this is my browser displaying the same interface. So you don't need to use the Windows application, although it's faster, a little bit faster. But they have a full browser-based version that you can just bring up in your web browser too. All right, so you don't have to install the client to use Teams. Up here on the top, so these are tabs up here. I'm in a channel called General. That's the default channel. You can create multiple channels and you'll get different conversations. You'll get different file shares, different wiki per each channel. Okay, so we're just in the general. In it, we can see a files library. So remember we said Teams was built on Office 365 groups, and as part of Office 365 groups, when we create one of those, we get a SharePoint site collection. All right. So in that site collection is a document library, and Teams automatically connects to that site collection and document library. And we can see here that we can just drag and drop and upload documents and work on documents as if it were, the same type of experience as SharePoint. Okay. So we can open up in PowerPoint Online or on the client. We can open this thing up in SharePoint itself. Okay, rename, download, all that good stuff. All right, now A wiki is also provisioned. We're really not using it for this project, but you know, a shared FAQ type of experience can be easily created here. Now, I have two more tabs to kind of show here. The first is this research tracker list. This is a SharePoint list that is pointing to a totally different SharePoint site collection. All right, so imagine that we have a SharePoint repository that's related to this team. Usually it's like just a little piece. It's like either a sub-site or a library that is relevant in this document management hierarchy to this team. And we can easily create a tab to it, so your one-stop shop to get that information. Interestingly, if you see here with Flow and Power Apps, these are the newer productivity tools for the cloud. You can create line of business solutions through this type of interface. So they're really running up in the SharePoint Online or in the context of SharePoint Online, but you can get to creating the flow or starting the flow or creating a new form right here in the context of Teams. Now, at the SharePoint conference this week, they announced that there will be a whole new programming interface for Teams. So what you can do there is add different experiences in the context of Teams. Microsoft is really trying to drive the collaboration productivity UI from the browser and Outlook into this environment. Okay, they want it to be the main dashboard of your day-to-day activity. So right now, you would probably have this up plus Outlook if you were, totally full tilt into Teams. You can imagine adding. If you see the Add tab here, you can see all these integrations that are available to point to. You can put videos, point to SharePoint libraries, document libraries, SharePoint sites here. You can do any website. So you can think of, if you have an HR system that's maybe relevant to a specific team or some slice of a CRM system, you could go ahead and link to it. And then, of course, Power BI to really round out the dashboard experience with reports, interactive reports. The tab here, Teams presentation, is an example of Planner. So when you create a Microsoft team, you get a Microsoft Planner plan. I find myself, when I'm talking to customers, saying things like Microsoft Teams team and Microsoft Planner plan, but that's just the marketing department for Microsoft playing with us again. You can see here that I have different buckets of tasks, okay? So this is just a kind of example of us putting together our PowerPoint for this presentation, right? We needed a pet picture slide that Mark has been assigned to. I had the comparison slide, and Eric had to find his mutant or superhero picture, right? So this is that plan here, is that intermediate ground between project server and a spreadsheet, and you can see you can take a task and just drag it over into the bucket when it's complete. These can be different stages. I have customers who have different stages of their project plan where they're dragging and reassigning these tasks all over the place. So this is a feature that actually some customers are adopting Teams just because of the Planner integration. It's the Planner and the conversations together that they really like. Okay, so that is that.
Hey, Jason, we've got 9 minutes, and I know we have the how do we get started. Can we switch the order and whoever has questions, let me do a quick screen share. I want to make sure that our audience has the ability to ask their questions. Okay, let me know when you can see my screen, folks. Whoops. Okay, so Q&A. Let me see if I can get this right, guys. Q&A. Boom. All right, let me know if that comes up for you guys. It should. If it doesn't,
see it.
Oh, you see the question? Not the actual slide, but the actual, here we go, Q&A. Okay. All right, so we've had a few. Ask away. Brenda, John, thank you guys. All right, so any questions?
Yeah, hi, this is Brian Lawton from Real Alloy. We've done some testing with Microsoft Teams, and one of the things that we found was the app, the Microsoft application. It's running in the background, and it tends to use a high amount of CPU over a period of time. Have you experienced that, and has there been any workaround for that?
Yeah, I haven't experienced the high CPU usage. We have seen higher than normal disk usage with it. Well, I don't know about normal, but higher than we'd expect with disk usage. You know, that the application and Teams itself is really on version 1 at this point. I would call it version 2 now, that's going to be rolling out after this SharePoint conference, everything announced. So I would just kind of keep an eye on it, and I would think that it would get the improvements here very quickly over time. I mean, they rolled out a lot of this functionality very fast. We're actually seeing some changes in the tenant from when they announced it like a day and a half ago. So they're really pushing these things out. So I would say, yeah, give it a little bit of time.
Great question, Brian. Anybody else? Whoever asked that superhero power for Eric, it was Tobey Maguire. That was the answer. Spider-Man. Okay. Mr. Connolly, I know you were on. I don't know if you had any questions for us.
I think he's having audio issues here.
Aren't we all? Sorry, guys.
Hi, guys. This is John. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I asked it in the chat window. Maybe you didn't see it or it didn't send. And that's, are there any features in the Teams installation for the client that are different or missing from Mac OS compared to Windows 10?
I don't know the answer to that one. I have not tried the Mac OS client at this point. So
John, I'll take that as an action item, and we'll get back with you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I know a lot of developers like playing on their Macs instead, and we've had some gaps even with the Office 365 offering, and that some of the features aren't coming to the Mac as quickly as we'd like or we expected. And I wondered if Teams was one of those things too. Like you said, it's version 1. So yeah, I would love to hear more.
You know, I think, now this is speculation, that they're implementing both the web and the Windows client with the same code base. Okay, it seems to be a lot of JavaScript going on. So I don't know though how they did it on Mac OS. I haven't just looked at it. So.
Hey, Jason, Patrick asked, can Teams make use of existing SharePoint team sites as its backend instead of creating its own new SharePoint sites?
All right, so that is probably one of the top 5 questions or requests that have been made by people to the Microsoft product team. All right, the answer is that is coming, and they just announced it a day and a half ago. So right now, the answer is that until they roll it out to your tenant, okay, right now the answer is to use the web tab to point to an existing SharePoint site. And what we found is if we put in a document that says, hey, don't, in files, you can't get rid of that files tab, okay? You cannot delete it, it's hard-coded. So we just put a document in there that says, do not store files here, store in the right place, and you have to tell people where to store it. That's today. That's going to be different going forward. They just announced that great feature, and we're excited to use it because we're going to be able to enable teams to attach it to any team site, any SharePoint team site. Okay.
Great question, Patrick. So 2 minutes, and I want to do the poll just briefly. I know we're losing some folks. Any other questions? Don't hesitate. No question is stupid. Only stupid people. And I ask a lot of stupid questions, trust me. Anybody at all? All right. So feel free to email your questions. Just briefly, we talked about. Actually, let me go to the poll. Just real quick, guys. Won't take but a minute. Okay. All right. Can everybody see? So I think we have about 46 participants left. You guys are the true remnant. Thank you for being here all the way through. That takes a lot of patience. Can everybody see my screen? What would make this webinar better? No? Oh, look at that. Voters. All right. Thank you, Dave. So while you're voting, Bennett Adelson can help you. We do a lot of these, and we have experience. So reach out to us. Even if you're just thinking about it or have questions, you want to explore it, let us have the opportunity to talk through it with you. We have a lot of different practices here, and I'm going to kind of switch gears here. We do architecture and development work. We do business intelligence, advanced infrastructure, which Teams falls under, information worker. We're SharePoint connoisseurs. We're just amazing at it. So if you have a technology project you're considering, reach out to me, reach out to Brian, reach out to Eric. We can help. And at minimum, we can give you guys a different view, a competitive quote, and make your current partner sharpen their pencil on the project. So as a thank you for everyone who stuck through here, last 34, we're going to give you 6 free complimentary weeks of work on Teams. And I just heard Nilesh fall over in his chair, and that was a total joke. Not a timely one, but really thank you guys for joining. Thanks for your investment. I know this is precious time. I hope you guys benefited from it in some ways. I'm always looking for candid feedback and hot topics that you guys want to hear about. So feel free to reach out anytime with any requests. I want to continue this on a monthly basis and make it better and better and better. So if you'd be so kind, please you guys took the anonymous survey. I've seen a few votes. Again, thank you guys. Please come back next month. And if there's anything at all that I can help with in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm going to post my contact info here. And if you're already working with a rep from BA, then I'll make sure to direct them from you if you're not familiar. But we are in the same office as Microsoft. Come visit me, shake my hand, look me in the eye. I'll buy you lunch. We can talk Teams. We can talk technology. And again, thank you guys so much for your time. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful weekend coming up here. Thanks, guys.